Welcome back to CVTV Sports Week in Review. Thanks for hanging around with us. Mike Neville along with Tucker Warner. And before we get back to some more basketball, I want to tell you about some high school wrestling from this past weekend. We told you, we talked last week about Mountain View and Colonial Forge, how strong their wrestling programs are. Well, they certainly were in action and doing very well last weekend in the second annual Mountain View Duels. The host school, the Wildcats, posting a 5-0 record. That included a 34-28 win over Brentsville in the finals to win their own event. Spotsylvania also did very well in that event as they finished with a 4-1 mark. Colonial Forge unbeaten. They went 4-0 at the prestigious Virginia Duels to win that event with that perfect 4-0 mark, defeating 3 teams from Pennsylvania and 1 from New Jersey. Colonial Forge is never afraid to wrestle some programs from outside of the Old Dominion, and that was certainly proved last week. Obviously, 3 good programs from Pennsylvania and 1 from New Jersey. And again, we've talked before, Tucker, about, just like the Colonial Forge basketball team, when you schedule these tough ones, I'm sure Bill Swink, the coach for Colonial Forge, is saying, yeah, I want to win, but also, wrestling from out of state, maybe see some different moves and so forth that maybe his wrestlers can incorporate. But obviously, 4-0, pretty good showing. There were several individual wrestlers that did very well for Colonial Forge. Levi Engelman at the 106-pound mark was unbeaten. Robert Winters at 182 also finished with an unbeaten record for Colonial Forge. Cameron Houston, 195 and 220, so I guess there were a couple of classifications that he wrestled at, but he was very good because he went unbeaten. Also, Patrick Grayson at 220 and 285 also was unbeaten, and one other wrestler that went unbeaten for Colonial Forge was Brody Jones at 285. So again, congratulations to the Colonial Forge wrestling program. 4-0 mark in a very prestigious, the Virginia Duels event this past weekend. All right, let's jump back then now to high school basketball. I want to tell you about another girls contest from Monday night, and of course, Tucker told you about Mountain View. I believe they were number 1 in our rankings. The Mountain View girls were winners on Monday night, beating Liberty 63-56. Alexis Davis leading the way with a game-high 25 points. Scored 12 over 25 in the fourth quarter to help the Wildcats to that victory. Also, Gene Johnson added 12 points for Mountain View. So like you said, Tucker, a team that that's kind of a high score, to be honest with you, for Mountain View girls. Usually you'll see them in the 40s, but a very good defensive team.
A terrific defensive team, and I think what's impressive about them on offense is that you don't know who's going to step up each game, and somebody always does, which is what really impresses me about them. They've got so many players on this team that are capable of leading them on offense for a little bit. Right. You've got the entire team leading them on defense.
And most of the pro teams that are in your top 5 are like that, where they spread the offense around. You can't really concentrate, like you say, on one person. If you shut down, okay, we're going to shut down this person, 2 other players step up, and that's been the key for these programs that are having success in our top 5 poll. Chancellor was also back in action, the girls, on Tuesday night, and they rolled over Caroline 63-47 was the final. Sydney Jackson leading the way as she pumped in a game-high 20 points for the Chargers, 16 of those 20 in the first half. Jayla Harris, those 2 we told you, leading the way for the Chargers. She also contributed 19, all of her 19 points in the second half. So, boy, that's a 1-2 punch right there. The Jackson hits you with the little rope-a-dope and the little jabs, and then the knockout punch comes from Jayla Harris in the second half for Chancellor. Elsewhere, James Monroe edged Cortland 47-44 in girls basketball. How about this for a stat line for James Monroe's Shakira Austin? 18 points, 17 rebounds, 6 assists, and 6 blocks. I'd say that's getting your money's worth right there.
And not only do you have the double-double, you're probably getting dangerously close to that rare 5x5 that you see from Hakeem Olajuwon, and that's about it. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. But a terrific effort by Shakira Austin for James Monroe. Victoria Washington had 11 points. Massaponax down River Bend 42-22 in girls basketball action. And Colonial Forge outscored Brook Point 41-30 in the second half on their way to a 61-47 win over the Blackhawks. And Nia Washington leading the way. She got hurt in that loss to Mountain View a couple weeks ago, but she dropped in a game-high 26 points for the Eagles. She is one that is certainly you got to watch on the Colonial Forge side of things.
Yeah, and it's great to see her being healthy. Right. You're kind of worried if you have to leave the rest of a game with an injury, but yeah, I'm just happy she's back on the court, and Colonial Forge, I'm sure, is very, very happy about that too.
Landra Bandy led the way for Brook Point with 16 points. Boys high school basketball, E.J. Jenkins collecting a double-double for Chancellor as he led them to an 82-74 win over Caroline. Jenkins with 25 points also hauled in 11 rebounds. And to go along, he also had a pretty good game. He also had 5 blocks in that contest. Mark Loving leading the way for Caroline in that contest with 20 points. Seja Beckett had 10 points, 4 assists, and 4 steals. Riverbend a winner as they slipped by Massaponax 56-50. Devon Carson and James Ashlock both leading the way for Massaponax with a game-high 12 points apiece. And you mentioned Riverbend. That's another team that you want to kind of watch out for as this season continues past the midway point.
I think so. And, they're a young team. And with young teams, you can see a lot of improvement as the season goes on. And that's the big thing you're going to have to watch out for them is their explosiveness on the Riverbend team. They've got 3-point shooters. They've got young, athletic players, and they've got top rebounders, just for a little bit of consistency.
Sure.
Where, top rebounders will always get the ball for you, and that's something you need if you're going to try to make a playoff run.
And I think you mentioned this before, veteran coach and Eric Davis, of course, who coached a while back at King George. Eric, good coach at Riverbend, so they're playing some pretty good basketball right now. And as we mentioned, another team playing pretty good basketball is the Colonial Forge boys basketball team. Winston Burgess just missing out on a double-double on Tuesday night as Colonial Forge posted a 59-35 victory over Brook Point. Burgess 20 points, 9 rebounds for the Eagles in that contest. And Mountain View picked up a win. They've been struggling. Of course, Mountain View was hit hard by graduation, but they've got a terrific coach in Kevin Brown. They posted a 49-32 win over Stafford on Tuesday night. Jacob Pollock and Darren Robinson leading the way for for Mountain View in that one with 12 points apiece. Brandon Brown leading the way for Stafford with 10 points apiece. Stafford is one of those teams where, they'll come up with a big victory and you think, okay, this is going to get them on a little bit of a roll, and then they'll stumble over a couple of teams maybe you think they should win, and they end up falling to those teams. This is kind of a case where Mountain View has been struggling all season. Stafford kind of a tough team to figure out.
Yeah, and I feel like at the end of the year we'll see them at exactly 500. They've got talent. And they play well. They can play up to teams. They can also play down to certain teams. And it's just kind of maddening how they can't get any consistency across the season.
And you made a good point, because when you get to postseason play, if they qualify for tournaments, they're going to be a tough out, I think, because you just don't know what team's going to show up.
Exactly, yeah. So you're wondering with teams like that, like, can they get the upset, or are they going to, which team's going to show up?
And real quick, wrapping things up on this segment, I want to tell you about one more game to tell you about, and that's James Monroe. They outscored Cortland 67-55. Drejan Bowley leading the way, 26 points, and he also grabbed 4 rebounds for the Yellow Jackets. Daryl Gerald leading the way for the Cougars with 19 points. And King George also a winner. They beat Spotsylvania 58-55. T.J. Wells dropping in 20 points. Darius Carter, the guy you talked about earlier, game high 31 points to lead the Knights in that contest. And like I say, he's been a terrific addition to that Spotsylvania roster. All right, we're going to take a break, come back. The University of Mary Washington men's and women's basketball teams were in action Wednesday night. We'll tell you how they did. Also talk about the National College Football Championship game from this past Monday. All that and more as we continue on this edition of CVTV's Sports Week in Review. Stay with us.